enough to make Jesus turn his head away. It's enough to strike fear in a full-grown man. When drugs and guns wind up in children's hands, is a dream disappearing here in the land of the free? Don't know about you, but it sure seems that way to me. I just want to see someone stand up and tell the truth, not analyze or justify. It ain't that hard to do, talking, walking a straight line down that old path of right and wrong. Like a wrecking ball on a crumbling wall, it can all be gone. No time for jealousy, I got no time for greed, and I ain't gonna get bogged down in color, race, or creed. If I see somebody down, I reach out my hand, 'cause I believe that God is in the soul of every man. Well, they say sticks and stones will break your bones, and words don't do a thing. Let them tell that to you when you're black and blue from the pain that that word brings. I just want to see someone stand up and tell the truth, not analyze or justify. It ain't that hard to do, talking, walking a straight line down that old path of right and wrong. Like a wrecking ball on a crumbling wall, it can all be gone. I just want to see someone stand up and tell the truth, not analyze or justify. It ain't that hard to do, talking, walking a straight line and that old path of right and wrong. Like a wrecking ball on a crumbling wall, it can all be gone. Oh yeah. It can all be gone.
Beat to the Fire with the Black Knight of Talk Radio, James Atayanchik, is the technical production of IPS Media Works and aired on the Jancic Radio network of stations. The views expressed in the following show are of the host, the guest, and the callers, and not necessarily the views of Interstreams Radio, IPS Media Works, the Jancic Radio Network, nor its advertisers and affiliates. The content of the following show, its accuracy, authenticity, and the ramifications of the use or application of said content is the responsibility of those speaking and listening, not the broadcast medium.
One thing I've learned, if you don't hold their feet to the fire, everybody gets burned.
hold on. Before you start waving around that freedom of speech thing, when you're in a crowded movie theater and you scream fire, you better be able to smell smoke. You come on this radio show and you start saying incondescent things like that, you better have more behind you, pal, than just your thumb. I've been listening to talk radio for years, and one thing I just can't stand is when the host has to, push his way on the people, beat the callers into his way of thinking, extending his ego. Or when the callers call in and say something so outrageous and the host lets it go unchallenged. The sign you're on the road to truth is the lack of contradiction. You want to find truth, you just don't simply believe somebody because of their authority or their degree, or you listen to what they say, you test it against reality, and you hold their feet to the fire.
All right, we are back and we are live, Feet to the Fire. I am your host, James Arthur Yanchek, the Black Knight of Talk Radio Live. We are broadcasting here on Spreaker, which will be transliterated, transconfigured, whatever, to YouTube after we're done. I just don't want to use the video unless I have something to look at other than my face. I could send pics if you really want it. Anyway, so you can listen live on Spreaker. I guess that's the only way to listen live through the website. Feet to the Fire Radio has a built-in thingy. Or you can go to Spreaker.com and look for Feet to the Fire Radio. Or you click the links that I put out on email, Facebook, Twitter, Gab, and Minds. And here you are. I see Calvin has made it into the chat room. I think you have to join Spreaker. It's just free. You know, there's advantages, too. You can get emails when there's a show or what have you. And their app is really cool for listening live. If you're, like I am on the road, I can put it on my cell phone and then run it through my stereo I have in the truck. And it's very easy to listen to. And it's easy on bandwidth, too, for those who have plans that may have that because of being audio instead of video and whatnot. The YouTube will have video, but it's basically just a picture, and you could see the movement of the audio cursor across the screen. So that is that. I do have, and I will post with the YouTube version, I have some links pre-posted up in the Spreaker description for those who want to once playing, click the live button at the top of the sine wave and the chat box opens. There you go. Kelvin is there live in the chat room, live, giving us real-time info on how you can join in with comments and questions, etc. I guess you could just reply to the show on posting on Facebook and whatnot, though for me to see it would be dubious because I got to pay attention to what I'm doing. I don't have the multitasking features or talents that I used to have in years gone by. But of course, automation has gotten a lot better too. I had to do it all before. Now I could just do a little bit of it. The rest kind of happens. The title kind of tides turned, just maybe, but we'll see. I'm pretty optimistic of some of the things that have been going on post-Mueller report. And I do have some hope. You know, it's nice. I got some possibilities, some things. I'll go over some of these things. The problem is we're dealing with people, if I am correct in assuming these things, many have gone before me to say them, that we're dealing with the bottom of the satanic pit here in people running the world and in more close to home in our country, so that if they really were pushed to the wall and there was imminent arrests and trials and whatnot, there would be some type of a nuclear false flag, and we'd be in, World War II, was it 3, 4, 5, whatever it is now, and it would be unpleasant, because when you are that deep in that evil and that nasty, if it is true about the adrenochrome and the satanic cults and sacrifices and children and whatnot and trafficking, if you are really that deep and dirty in there, then there is no turning back. And pulling the switch and going down into the catacombs for a while is not that objective bad, objectionable of an option, when your other option is being, hung on the scaffolding in the streets or ripped apart, and so on. So this is the thing that's always in the back of my mind, and when everything starts to look good and you start to go forward, it's like, what, are they gonna pull that pin? I don't know. But we'll just leave that alone. That's in the background. That's always kind of like, oh, so close. That's in the background. So we'll just go from there. Make that as an assumption, as a possibility, and we just, move forward. But as that aside, a lot of, we'll call it negative things have happened post-Mueller with the Smollett debacle. But from there has been some good things. For example, I want to mention that since they decided to let Smollett go, not even with a slap on the wrist, it's basically thumbing the nose in the face of, the non-extreme left social communist, whatever you want to call them. Them guys over there. Us over here, it's a big slap in the face. It's like pulling rank. It's like laughing at him. But remember what the original goal was on this Smollett hate crime thingy he was doing, was to sow racial hate. Well, by getting him off, does the same thing. It's not as effective as pretending that Trump supporters, tried to hang him and bleach him. I don't know. Maybe they did that in years gone by, but it's pretty. I've not heard any. The most racist people that I've ever heard don't talk about bleaching them white or whatever. But the goal was to, of course, sow racial discord, and by getting him off of those charges, while other people would have been, driven through the mud. I mean, look what happened in the Mueller report, and the people around Trump and Flynn and those other people. They are getting dragged through the mud, and then he gets off. So it does still do its original goal, which was sow racial animosity, though not as good. I mean, the good old stereotypical Trump boys aren't going to go out and burn down buildings, where we can go back to what happened in Missouri and whatnot with the burnings that happened with Black Lives Matter. So, yeah, it's not as good as what they planned, but it's still got a little touch, and it thumbed nose from the extreme left to the rest of us. However, the problem with that is in Chicago, it is very Democratic. I mean, if you go back to the old man Daley in the 60s, who owned the city, they went in and voted on the voting machines after it closed to make sure the job got done. And the Democrats owned Chicago for decades. They still do. So what they had to do is they had to basically decide whether to throw Jesse Smollett. Is it Jesse? Smollett. Smollett? It's like Mollet, except for Smollett. They had to throw him under the bus, or they had to throw Chicago Police Department and Rob Emanuel under the bus. Rob Emanuel, if you recall, or may not recall, was Secretary of State. Secretary of. We'll get it. We will get it. Now I can't think of it because I'm seeing Reince Priebus, and I'm looking at these other guys in the Obama administration. Whenever I think about stuff, I keep saying this, but I have to reiterate to new users. Whenever I get a visual, the actual words disappear. I'll see and I'm already lost the job he held. But he was under Obama, and he had to throw him under the bus along with the Chicago Police Department. Now, Chicago Police Department maybe not as bad because of the the war on police, but if you look at the racial and political makeup of a lot of the police leaders are black/Democrats, so he had to throw all those people under the bus, and they're not taking it. They're not taking it. So Rob Emanuel is kicking back. The police department went and released the data that they had at the bond hearing and have forwarded requests to have it looked on. President Trump, of course, is saying that they're going to look into it from the federal level. And I had links I posted to an interesting letter that was put together by the Illinois... now I just lost everything on my side here. Go back. I'm trying to go back to my page here and scroll down. The Illinois Prosecutor Bar Association or something like that. They released an official statement. Here it is. Illinois Prosecutor Bar Association, IPBA, statement on Jussie Smollett. I'm calling him Jesse. Showing about the anomalies and what was done. There's been digging into the prosecutor, or the DA Kim, who has had money coming from Soros. Of course, on the left and in the public and in the propaganda media, Soros is a good guy. He's one of these old rich guys helping out. So for us, we know it's a political plan, but so it's not. Excuse me, it's not getting off scot-free here. There's some action going on, and it may lead to some problems. I hope it's investigated. I mean, I don't care what color, what gender, what political party someone is. They do some shenanigans like that, they go do time. That's it. Especially when they're trying to cause a rift, throw gasoline on the rift here and cause racial war problems. I don't care what color you are, you're going into prison for that. And I don't even think you should have hate crimes personally. Just causing a fake, fake thing that people could have got arrested and charged. Look at the shenanigans they pulled with the Supreme Court nominee saying he did all these things and so on. So and it's good because it looks like people are going now. We'll have to see. You see, a while back, I posted a post and I said, well, if tide is really changing, things are changing. And I listed several things that should happen, one of which was Jussie Smollett doing time. Actually doing time. I didn't say 20 years, but, 2 days community service was not in my mind. I'm talking about going inside, they turn the key, and there you are. And as far as in other things, so it's not happening, so it looks bad, but again, everything kind of goes, and then you look at what that causes, that puddle in the water as the waves magnify. It might have been wiser for the left to just offer up Smollett. Now, of course, more news stories that the person brought in on the Smollett case was an expert in child pornography and trafficking. So now the speculation running wild is that he knew things and was going to sing like a bird, thus spakes Obama as a takeoff on that 2001 Space Odyssey, which, got him out because of the other costs. Now, if that's the case, you may see Jussie Smollett join the Clinton body bag list, which would then take a lot of the heat off from that aspect, but we will see. I don't want to start, throwing out. There's plenty of people speculating. What I try to do is to kind of be, speculation is fine, but kind of be close to the reality of it along the way, or keep it kind of tucked in, because it can get pretty wild out there. And I was actually looking into this whole thing of adrenochrome, which to me sounds a little wild. Now, again, go back in history. They used to take babies and toss them into fire, to Moloch and all that. So, I mean, there's nothing in the past, we can outdo, except we could probably do it with more technologically, efficiency. We can cause greater pain and suffering, but so it's not like I'm going, oh, nobody could do that. But, things can get out of hand. But after seeing a clip, and what is that song? Somebody in the chat room tell me. I want to find this movie. I'm afraid to watch it, though. But it's like it's a Johnny Depp movie where they have the scene with him with the adrenochrome, or I don't know if they actually mention it by name in there, but it was very freaky when I saw that, and that alone says, there's more to this than saying wild things on the internet. And you could see where the people are supposedly ruined by it, which would make sense, especially where it's coming from. So, yikes. Now, let me. I do have some. There are some visuals here, but I do posted the links in the Spreaker description, which will be posted in the YouTube description for those watching after the fact. But somebody mentioned there's a cartoon on Cartoon Network where they have the cartoon figure is positioned in a similar position as Baphomet with the goat head and the hand up, down, all that deal, and it's like very spooky looking. I have not gone to try and find this character. It appears from the source of this that they didn't just draw that character themselves and make it up, so it's real. But it does not surprise me, course, that this would be going on. I do have a link to the Jesse Smollett bond papers. Somebody did a video. I think it's Bill Still, where he actually read the bond papers, which in the video you could see the actual physical paper, which lists out all the evidence against them, and it's pretty extensive. I mean, videos, cell phones, the whole 9 yards. So. No question about it, there's enough there for a trial, and plenty there to not dismiss. I'm saying that I'll kind of order because I'm going down this list. Oh, excuse me. Had a bowl of soup before I came here. And now Hannity, who I'm not a big fan of, Hannity goes back to the 90s when I was driving. He was a Rush Limbaugh wannabe type, and he's definitely partisan Republican right. Excuse me. I guess I'm going to be hiccuping here. But he did a great job lining up with, I think, proper emotional. I guess I want to say anger, or at least some type of emotional reaction to the stiffing that's been going on for the last couple of years. And so I do put a link to that. If you want to sit through that, it's a great summary, complete with actual quotes from the various people saying the various knucklehadia things along the way, showing the Trump collusion, which is absolutely, there's proof and whatnot. So that is there. Big story, I think. Actually, to go back to the Obama years, this really bothered me, is when they turned over the ICANN system of the internet to a world conglomeration, in other words, globalists. And now the EU has put together a copyright law, which, if I could just blather about it without having to read a bunch of lists of things, there's a tax on links, and you have to get permission to include a link in your post. Even though the link itself is text, it doesn't actually do anything. When you put that link in your post, you have to have permission from them, releasing the copyright they have to whatever's on that page. If you don't do that, there's a fine. This is in the EU. It's not in the U.S. yet, but it essentially then shuts down the internet for sharing information. Because if, for example, CNN has a story and it comes out and they made a mistake, whatever, and you have that video showing the error and you want to play it in the EU's domain, that would be illegal. You'd have to have CNN say yes. And I'm sure I could just see them going up to Alex Jones. Yes, Alex Jones, we give you permission to show our messing up yet again on our show. So that is one of the things that is horrendous in this. Under the guise of trying to protect people from stealing copyright, you put a link up somewhere. I mean, it's one thing you cut and paste a story, okay, but putting a link to it is nothing. There's absolutely no copyright any way, shape, or form. Of course, they just made a law that says it. So, you can make a law that having blue hair is illegal if you want. I mean, constitutionally, if I can use the phrase, it's not illegal, but you can make it illegal. And that is what they've done. So any kind of links and whatnot is going to be copyrighted, and you need permission. So that would shut down the sharing of information. Now, it would cut some of these places, they cut and paste the whole story on their own link and share their link. Now, I think that's wrong. Some of them don't even give a hot link back to the thing. You got to read through and find a little fine print to find out where the real story comes in. And then sometimes you find the real story, and it's like they haven't actually been faithfully saying what the real story did. And so, there are some things that are problematic with the way they do clickbait and whatnot, but that's terrible. That's terrible. So that you, for example, if you wanted to even share a link to a band's website, you'd have to have their permission and could be charged, and you'd have to prove it. I mean, I remember playing, of course, it's bad here. I had Les Visible doing an interview, and I was playing some of his songs in the background, like, bumpers, because we came in from the break, and I got not a strike at YouTube, but it was a possible strike if I didn't deal with it. They wanted me to take it off. I'm like, I got your own guy. Les is here interviewing me. He's giving me permission. In fact, he's thanking me for playing these intros. You're telling me not to. This is your guy. And that's when I learned that it's once you sign a record contract, that actual audio belongs to the record contract, and they decide, not the artist. Which is why you see people like Def Leppard and others have re-recorded the audio as faithfully as possible so that they can retain control over that copy. I should stop here. Well, I'll just, forgive me for jumping around, but I'll forget this to come back to it. And, I mentioned several weeks ago I've been doing this C60 thing. Going to start, I did several things at once, which, I know it's not good science. I'm doing my lentil fast that I do, which means I don't eat things and I drink protein and a lot of green stuff and whatever. It's kind of like it's fasting and cleansing at the same time. So I added this in the mix. So I got a lot of black unpleasantness coming out of my posterior, and it was a little uncomfortable for a while. And I noticed some of the people wrote in response to this, said, yeah, I had that too. It goes away. But I got a little nervous because if you recall, almost a year ago, I was in the hospital having severe cold and bleeding, basically watching myself bleed to death. Of course, I was in the hospital, and they wouldn't let me bleed to death. But I tell you, other than their words telling me there wasn't, I was bleeding to death, man. They couldn't even get blood out of me. I stood up and passed out. So, one of the things that's possible when you have black like that in your intestines is that you're bleeding from, like, say, the small intestine, higher up. Because as the blood travels through, it hits the enzymes and whatnot, and it blackens. So my brother had to take my mom to the hospital because she thought she was having some problems with that, and then it turned out it could be blood. And he told me this. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Am I bleeding again? Oh, no. So I started to do a little panic because let me tell you, call me a wuss, but when I was laying there, like, bleeding to death, it really freaked me out. I probably got some of this post-traumatic stress out of that whole situation, which, again, shows how non-combat type of person I guess I am. I mean, I don't know. I guess in the heat of the moment, you do what you got to do. But anyway, so I started to panic a little bit. I backed off on the C60 just in case it might have been too much for my system. Maybe it was all these toxins or, these C60 molecules are ripping through and they're dragging all this stuff, and it's huge and it's breaking capillary. I mean, my mind's starting to get a little nutty, right? So I backed off a little bit on it, but everything kind of got better, and I reinstituted it and so on. So make a long, hopefully not too graphic story short. That's doing well. I mean, I feel very good. I don't want to say it's too loud because then I'll get hit by a bolt of lightning. The devil goes, "Oh, I forgot about him. He's doing okay. Wait a minute. Hey, Baffy, go check in on him, huh? Make sure he, gets a couple of whacks here, isn't it?" But it's been doing rather well. I mean, I feel good. I've had a lot of little physical problems, which are all going away. General pain, like we'll call it fibromyalgia neuralgia around the place, and swelling and joint pain and tired and depressed mood and just not being I've had some, like last night I had a really, really bad dream, real freaky type dreams and all that, but I still feel pretty good. So as far as the cleansing and the fasting and all that, throwing the C60 on top of it, so far I'm pleased at this point, and we'll see how things go. And I was brought up because there's a link I put up on the web page about ginger tea. I started getting some tea going again, and I've combined ginger tea with turmeric. Not turmeric. Is it turmeric? Yeah, turmeric, and another tea bag which has some various digestive properties, and that's been good too. A little bit of honey. Going back again, flopping around here. Sorry for the back and forth, but Judicial Watch. That's one of those places. Judicialwatch.org. I recommend, because those guys are putting a lot of time and money, a lot of legwork into the Clinton cabal, and they have. They're doing Freedom of Information Act. They're doing lawsuits. They're really going after them, and they have a judge has ordered that Hillary Clinton's lawyer has to respond to their questions, or Hillary does, I should say, and others too, and they're really doing a good job. So check out judicialwatch.org if you want to find out what's going on. Those guys are really doing a good thing. It's just real stuff. To me, this is the real stuff going on. This is the real legwork that's going on. And not to, start, get into a war here, but as opposed to a lot of this Q stuff going around. This is real work going on in the background. All right, I think I got through some of that. Let me go over here. I want to get into some main things. I lost my place here. I have to go to my... I do have a couple pages on Facebook, and for those who don't know this, one of them is called Extremist Left Watch. I was going to take it down because I don't like the whole right-left thing, but I decided to keep it up because there's so much stuff going on. I'm just going to bring up the things I think I need to, and the Puerto Rican governor said he wanted to punch the bully, quote, Trump, in the mouth. So we have the president or governor of Puerto Rico threatening physical violence to the president. Great stuff, right? I also have links on there that I didn't post to my general feed because they are pretty graphic and it's very upsetting. But one of the things that bother me about this whole feminism thing is that if the feminists really were for women, two things would be forefront, unified on the front. It's one, they would be going after the whole hijab thing where they're throwing acid and what is that, honor killings and all that nonsense would be front and center, and all of the Muslim leaders in government would be all talking about, patrolling their own ranks on this, but instead it's not talked about. A lot of graphic pictures of people who have been assified, and it's disgusting. And also the second thing a real feminist would be talking about would be men taking some hormones and becoming women and being in the Olympics various athletics, I should say. I don't think it's the Olympics yet, but I don't see how they can't at this rate. It's ridiculous. You know, I don't know. I don't know if this means that I'll be wanted in Canada or other countries, but there are two genders, male and female. Now, there may be a psychological mishmash going on of that, but, you know, there are two actual physical deals, and there are a very small percentage of people have born with both the physical aspects, but the rest of it is all mental/emotional. I mean, it's simple. It's fact. It's true. I'm not saying they're bad or evil. It's going to be a mental, emotional, and I don't know the dividing line between that. But that's what it comes down to. And if you're going to have sports, which is a physical sport, is a physical endeavor, and you're going to then decide to have two tiers of physical groups because of the limits imposed by the physical frames of the two genders, then you simply have physical male and physical female, period. The emotional aspect and the physiological and the mental or what all that's something you could talk about when you're, you know, buying clothes or whatever, but not when you're playing sports. Simple as that. And if it's allowed to go this way, which I don't see how it could stop now unless, I mean, from within. I mean, I don't see the Olympics people who are very politically correct, globalists and all this stuff. It is all about tearing down women. It's all about tearing down the family unit when you have the promotion of these type of gender-bending roles in the physical sense. This is the point. The whole point behind it, I'm not saying nothing like, oh, wow, Judy said it, so that's scandalous. No, it's common sense. It's everywhere. It's been there forever. No big deal. And but that's what it comes down to, the oppression of women by, I mean, I remember the liberals arguing about fundamental Christianity being oppressive of women because women would wear a dress, they had to wear a long dress, no pants in church. They couldn't preach in church. They could teach, but they couldn't preach. It had to be men preach. Oh, look how the oppressive of women. And look at this. They got to walk behind their men. They got to wear, you know, be covered. It can't be seen. Come on. Man, what's the matter with you guys? You know, it's common sense here, street sense. It's obviously ridiculous. And the extreme left is using the fundamental Muslim community as pawns in military, what do you call them, pieces on the chessboard of trying to bring down the West. As simple as that. Got some other things I posted. Share hopes Robert Mueller resigns from his reports. It just shows about the knuckleheadia going along. Of course, why on earth would anybody listen to an actor, a singer, you know, as if that person has some insight to, you know, human psyche or politics, or, you know, I mean, people like James Wood are rare because you got someone who's very intelligent and has not lost his mind to either drugs or some kind of, you know, adrenochrome or whatever it's called, or just fame or whatever. He's a level-headed guy, so, and pretty sharp tongue at that. But he's very rare in this type of stuff. But who's going to listen to Robert De Niro or Cher about commentary of things? These people are paid to act like someone else for a living. Again, James Wood is an exception on this. You have people like Roseanne doing a bad joke. In fact, her joke wasn't even bad. She didn't even realize that the lady in question had African-American ancestry in her, which goes to show was completely non-racial. And she loses her show, it has to sign over her own show. Of course, she didn't have to do that. She did that because she was trying to make penance and felt sorry about it. And she could have told him to, you know, pull it out your ear. But then you got Smollett doing an actual evil hoax, and he's, you know, got a show. Well, I would imagine the show will suffer, and he will suffer as the public becomes more and more. I wanted to mention on the Trump rally, I just saw an article. I this number is not going to be clinically sterile absolute because it's being put together by the Trump team, his campaign manager. But they took surveys. Apparently, when you sign up to get the tickets, they probably do some type of an interview for telemetrics on who is doing what and how. Maybe they'll give out tickets. They'll give out tickets because there's way more people who want to come. Maybe they'll give out tickets preferentially to people who fill out the things in a positive manner. And I got no problem with that. That's fine, and that's just the way it is. Let me turn this off here. But according to their little telemetrics on those who showed up in Thursday night's Grand Rapids rally, 34 of those people are registered Democrats, or were registered Democrats. Now, when I'm reading the article, it says that they were registered Democrats. This could mean that they voted for Trump last year, but were Democratic before that. And it could also mean that they voted for Hillary or didn't vote, but were Democratic and are now attracted to Trump. And he is putting together his own poll of people who interact voluntarily with them to come up with numbers, and that he's going to be able to put out information of people who have claimed that they were Democrats, I guess the word is, and have changed. So that's very interesting. Now, I got a call, was it last week? Someone not happy I'm talking Trump. I get email and letters here and there from people who are saying, they're all the same. Trump is some Scottish Freemason doing his thing and all this. And I'm not making fun. And everyone can have their opinions and beliefs and all this. But the problem is what I try to do. I mean, being one person who was in this same position of picking a paradigm and projecting it on the world. I mean, I did this. I come from this. I understand it from being the inside. And then when my paradigm was smashed, when I, divorced and left the church and all this stuff, how it happened in a time frame, I had to start over again and rebuild my paradigm. And started out with, is there a God? Does the Bible actually mean anything? And I started from zero and I put it back together again. Yeah, there's a God. The Bible means stuff. But the Bible is written by men, and it has been corrupt throughout the ages. But the good news is that the people who are in the darkness can't see the light. So when they do include things in the Bible they don't understand, they're allowing things, especially I'm talking about particularly what Jesus said, they're allowing things to be in there that are actually detrimental to perhaps their plan, but they don't get it. So that it's allowed to be there until it's become too entrenched. So then what they just do is ignore it. And proof of that would be go to a church and take, if you can, if you've been in a church now, go back into your sermon topics for the last year and see how many were actually based in Jesus' teachings versus Paul. That would be my thing, or perhaps ambiguous references to Proverbs and Psalms. This is the difference. You'll have in a more fundamental church, you're going to have Paul, and you're going to have the Torah basically taught. In the more liberal churches, you will have kind of a watered-down version of what love really is, and so on and so on. But they're not going to teach what Jesus said, because Jesus came to set the record straight, if you will. And lucky for us, when they passed the Bible along, even though the narratives, I believe that the narratives, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, were created, the narrative was the modern backbone of the religion. But inside the narrative, they actually quoted Jesus, and that's what I focus on rather than the narrative. So when people, the Catholics think that Mary was perpetual virgin, the fundamentalists say that she was virgin, it doesn't matter to me, because what matters to me is what Jesus said, and his teachings are what set you free. So that, of course, puts me as a heretic, but that's the point. You see, when you actually want to find the truth, when you come out and look at everything, you're going to find truth everywhere. You're going to find, mistakes or actual BS. propaganda. You're going to find it all everywhere. And you allow the truth to kind of float to the top. It kind of shows itself, and you accept it. And so it doesn't matter to me about some of the doctrinal details, because the bottom line is what Jesus said. Now, going back to what I said, the problem with like the Scottish Rite Masons and the Jews, the Ashkenazis, and all this stuff has truth in it, right? There are people who, there are the Zionist Israel guys doing stuff. There is the Masons, doing stuff, and it boiled over into the Mormons, and there's, and you got the fundamentalists. If they could, they'd start burning witches again, and you have all these things there. But the point is what is the unifying force behind them, which is stirring the pot up, which is also includes everyone else, non-religious folks, non-politically aligned people, and you get them lost in sexual discourse, lost in hatred, in racial fighting, in national fighting, and that is what the problem is. We're going after it'd be like, I don't know, I'm trying to come up with an analog. It'd be like if you were fighting an army and you were shooting the people as they attacked you versus going to the source and bombing the base. I don't know. These are kind of simple deals here. But the point is that rather than fight amongst each other, of course, again, all the time you have to prepare and take care of yourself. This is why I'm a Second Amendment guy. This is why I right to carry, all this stuff, because you have to take care of yourself, because out there's plenty of knuckleheads, regardless of how sophisticated or gross or base they are, who want you to pay, whether because you're a nice guy, whether because you're a white guy, you're a black guy, you're not a guy, you're in between, or you're going to pay. And they want to get you, which is why the rule of law, the Constitution, and all this stuff, plus us taking care of ourselves, is so important. So, so this is why I don't focus on, when people send me these stuff, I don't focus on these things. Because not that I'm saying you're wrong. It's not the Masons. It's the, what are they called? In the Catholic Church, I can't think of it now. See, I'm seeing their shield and that, so I can't. It aggravates me, and it's probably one of the reasons I'll be assured I'll never be doing this professionally, but maybe that could be a blessing. The Jesuits. So, whether it's the Masons or the Jesuits, the Jews, a certain type of Jew, the Russians, China, on a national scale, or you want to talk about the Bolsheviks or the neo-Maoists, all these people have one thing in common. They are all inspired by the evil plan of satanic forces. And I use the word Satan. Well, who's Satan? Is it like an angel? Is it Jesus' brother? Is it aliens? Is it actual people from another planet aliens? Or are they interdimensional aliens? Or are they actual spiritual beings? Are they lower spiritual? Were they kicked out of heaven? Literally, was there a fight? I don't care about any of that. I used to. I used to get into all this Bible prophecy and all these things, trying to figure out what it is, and realize that these are all analogs. These are all stories that are told, and whether they're literal or not is irrelevant. And they could be literal, all right? But the point is to give you the principle behind it, not the details. When you're talking about something you don't understand, you're not going to be able to give details. You only can give it from how you see it. It's all going to come from your perspective and your knowledge and your interpretation of it, and then you turn around and share it. And this is why I like to have this stuff, to study these things, and old teachings, the old writings. I want to hear someone talk from their own words. I mean, for example, when I all started this, I didn't pay attention on Trump or anything. When he won the nomination, I was surprised. I wasn't even paying attention. So it's not like I'm some kind of a long-time political guy. In fact, I'm more apolitical. I like Ron Paul when he came out. He was the first guy that caught my attention in my life as far as politics go. But I like to hear them talk. I want to hear their words. So I'm convinced enough that the words of Jesus in the Bible are from Jesus. At least they're close enough to keep the principles. Is it everything he ever said? No, I doubt it. Are there some real important things that weren't recorded? Perhaps. But here's what we got. And what we got is enough to get the principles across about what the deal is. And so this is why I don't follow this. And God bless the people. I'm not making fun of them, but, you know, I don't want to have people giving these long letters about the Masons and whatnot. It's like anytime you have a power structure, psychopaths are attracted to the top. The higher the power structure, the more power it is, the more clever it is, the more ingenious, intelligent psychopaths are that ascend. It's almost like the Peter principle. You know, you got a real dumb psychopath, he's going to get arrested for killing somebody for gym shoes. You got a real smart psychopath, they become political. They become priests. They become pastors. They become politicians. They become judges. You know, because they want to exercise power. And that is it. They don't want to hold power. They want to exercise power. So when you're in a position of power, they're going to have to exercise it. So what happens? You have the Masons and the Jesuits and the Ashkenazis and the Mamas and all the rest of them are going to exercise their power. This is where Satan comes in. Whatever you want to call that energy, the group, the people, the beings, the thing. They want to use that lust for power. Then you have the lust of the flesh for food, money, sex. Sex being probably the biggest. They'll use that lust so that they're not going to help people. They're going to find out what I'm going to see a woman or a guy's going to see a man or whatever, and they're going to go like, what can this person do for me? Financially? Sexually? How can I control them? This is what the thought process is from all those groups, right? And depending upon how smart they are and what kind of money they have behind them and what kind of family tradition they have laying the groundwork is going to be how these people work, how high they get. And so rather than pick one and basically help the overall scheme of things by fighting about one another, you avoid all of it. You find out this is wrong. And when you go through life, as you go through life, you call out what's wrong when you see it. As it comes across. Remember the phrase, go ye therefore, I'll teach all nations. I would like to see it translated like this. As you go, you teach all nations by example. Read James, the book of James, fantastic book. You do example of it. You teach them by showing them, by living it as well as saying it. And so, a great example of what's happening now in the abortion movement. And I wrote a little mini thing on it in Facebook. Years ago, people used to argue about, well, it's only a blob of cells, blah, 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 blah. And at some point, they were justifying early term abortions, and people were more able to swallow that, being a group of cells, whatever. And then when they have more information, and it only takes a few weeks before there's an actual outline of a human and blah, blah, blah. Well, now those arguments are like old hat. We have actual politicians putting out laws that say if you have an abortion and that child accidentally is born, you can kill them. Huh? What? How, the fact you'd have abortion when you have a viable child coming out is already like, what? You go back 20 years, it never would have happened. The whole Roe versus Wade, nothing at all have to do with this stuff. We're talking blobs back then. We're talking about birth control before it was even kind of we don't know. It's on a blood test shows us you're pregnant, not your growing belly or boobs, heartbeats and all that. So, but now it's blatant. And, of course, this is how evil works. Evil's not going to be happy with, okay, we got them to have, 10-week abortions. Okay, we'll stop there. That's fine. We're done. And now we'll move on to something. No. It's going to be 12 weeks. It's going to be 15. It's going to be 20 weeks. It's going to be, we want it all the way up to birth. We want it beyond birth. We want to kill children. That's the goal. And they'll bring along people along with this. They'll come up with it. Well, she's unwed and blah, blah, blah. She's going to have financial harm. They'll come up with, because what they want to do is not only do they want to kill another child, right? They want to take the person who didn't want to kill their child and talk him into it. And they'll use feather words and feather language and all this stuff until it's done. Once the child is gone, now they drop her on her tail because they want the person to either suffer and languish in the process and or hopefully turn hardcore like they are. And the best thing they can do is get people involved in it who are innocent or at least not openly, honestly malignant like they are and get them to do it. Same thing in the military. You have a guy, there's some insurgents there, take him out and you shoot him and it turns out to be some kids or a Sunday school group or I don't know, something, a marriage party. And the guys who shot them are joining the Army. Either they're doing it for the benefits and are protecting their country or both or whatever. My old man was in there. So now they're killing civilians. Whoops. Well, and that's what happens. Hey, they shouldn't be there. It's war zone. What are they doing walking around in their hometown, walking on their home street? How dare they? Meanwhile, now you got a person in the military who's now just taking out kids. And now they got to live with that the rest of their life. Then they could say, well, it was an accident. Well, we thought it was but they're dead. Dead children, dead people, dead wedding, and they have to live their life on them. So what happens? Post PSD, commit suicide, are screwed up for their lives. Victory. Victory for evil. We got the woman who had the abortion. Now she feels bad. Victory. We got the person to feel evil. Victory. We got that person who was going to try to protect his country. They get sent out politically to go fight a political war. It's bad enough, and now they're killing children, and this person is upset. Victory! This is what they want to do. They want to have racial fights. Victory! They want to have people hate one another. Victory! The goal from Satan is to have humans fighting humans in the marriage, outside the marriage. Parents, daughters, kids, army, doctors, lawyers. And need I even say the phrase Indian chiefs? Wanted to fight. Fight, hate, kill, death, victory. And we're, so what happens? We walk into this. When we get into the political battles, we start picking out who we're going to fight against and who we're going to do things against. There you go. You have to have a unified fight against evil. We point out the evil and say, that is evil. And continue from that point. Now, just like the old video, what do you want to do? Write your congressman? I don't want you to write your congressman. I don't want you to, I don't know what to talk. That great line from Network, great thing for Network. I don't have answers. I don't have answers to say, well, let's organize this and go downtown and do that and let's do this. I don't have the answers. There are people who are doing those things, and you may feel that your time served is best working with that, and that's fine. But, my own personal approach, and this is my personal approach, I don't preach it, I'm sharing it, just sharing it, right, is that as you go through the world, you will come across injustice, you will come across evil. As you go through the world, you do the evil, and you help those who are infirmed or have been unjustified, if that's a word. That's what you do. And this is what I'm doing. As I see it, I say it without worrying about what it costs me or the cause. I don't run around. I'm not bringing a dead fetus to lay into, give in the hands of Bill Clinton at a rally. I'm not saying it's wrong to do it. It's not me. It's not me to post video and pictures of, babies being thrown on the floor. Is it wrong to do it? I'm not saying that. It's just not me. Me is to sit down and to talk, rational talk, and show the consistency across the spectrum of the principles that have been taught by Jesus, which all agree with. I mean, you go back in time, nobody argued with this stuff. Look at some of the movies that were made, 10 Commandments and all this stuff. These are all ego people. They all had goofing around on the side. But in general society, you wouldn't come out with a movie that would be terrible, against this. Well, now it's... people are falling over themselves to try to come up with some nasty thing to say. No one would have came out to any president in the past, whatever color he is or whatever president was, and say the things they say against to Trump. Especially since all the assertions are actually not real. I mean, you might say he's a loudmouth or a braggart or ego or whatever. But racist? There's no evidence at all he's a racist. Not at the least bit. The stuff that he's done in his position at his help, outshines anybody his peer in terms of just helping regular old people. As he went through life, see, Trump, with all his coarseness, that's all that matters. As he goes through life, he does the best he can. Now, I think that he's a pragmatist, and he may be playing with the military-industrial complex because he has to play with somebody, or he would be out. Maybe it'll turn the other way and this and that. I can't second-guess him because there's not a chance in hell or Hades, depending upon your Greek level translation, of me being president. So I can't tell him what to do. Well, I know James would have been president, so I should call him and see what he would do. There's not a chance of me getting to be president. Not a chance. So everything that he's done and has done, I disagree with things, but what am I going to say? Am I going to play armchair quarterback? Am I going to be the guy sitting at home, like the fat guy on the couch, telling these guys on the field what to do? I should have done that. I should have ran and then run, These are the guys out in the field doing it. The coaches are out there. You got to go like, well, they made a good call or bad call, but nonetheless, you're sitting at home. So that's why I always look at this stuff. These guys, Trump's, when he gets up in the morning, he's make decisions that's going to affect him and millions of people, billions if you think about it, and he's going to end up, when his turn at the pearly gates, he's going to be like, hey, you know what? Decisions you made killed hundreds of thousands of people. But decisions you've made have helped millions. And that's the pragmatism involved, and either that's the name of the game. When you get in there, you got to make these decisions, and you might make practically I should do this and that. If you're an ideologue and get in there, like me, if I was in there, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that. Well, I wouldn't have gotten elected, one. Two, probably would have been thrown out or killed by now. But look at what he's doing as far as the abortion things alone and how hard his language is. I mean, he's not pussyfooting around nothing when it comes to this stuff. So while I could sit around and tell Trump that I don't think some of his tweets are appropriate, for me, if I was doing it, holy cow, look at the stuff that this guy has done. So is he working for the Scottish Freemasons to bring the U.S. on? It doesn't appear to be, because he's made a whole lot of enemies in all those areas. So I'm not like I said, I didn't even pay attention until I started to hear what he had to say after he won. So I'm not sitting here as some kind of Trump supporter. I'm not sitting here as a Republican. I'm sitting here looking at the problems that are out there in the world and going, holy cow. This guy has taken so much and still in there fighting. And then it doesn't even look like it phases him. He's got to be some kind of idiot savant of some type. There's got to be some kind of thing, their firewall that other people just couldn't handle. Anyway, a song that I can't play it because, of course, I'll get beat and set in prison for the copyright prison of all time. But I've been getting into country music lately. I should say the song that we heard at the beginning was actually given to me by the artist, and it's actually a demo version of what appears on his CD, so I'm assuming it's okay. Great song. So why can't somebody just tell the truth, not analyze, justify it? Beautiful tune. But I've been checking out other stuff, and I came across a song, Why Me, by Chris Christopherson. And, I kind of like Chris Christopherson. All these guys made it big time in all that. Who knows, right, what's going on behind them? But every time I have seen him or talked to him, heard him talk, he seems to be a pretty nice guy. And I was very moved at how he spoke at Johnny Cash's memorial, And it's a really nice song. Why Me, it's called, by Chris Christopherson. I think I put the link in the notes. He does a live version of it. It's on Vimeo. But look it up. Listen to the words. Very nice words. very humble, and not pretentious. There's a lot of songs out there that are pretentiously humble. And but it really does some good stuff. And while I'm at it, there's another song that Johnny Cash does. I think it's by I'm not going to be able to think of his name because I see his face. Called Down There by the Train, I think it's called. And it's the guy who sings like this. I can't think of his name now. Tom Waits. But I like Johnny Cash's version better. Down There by the Train. What a great song. I thought Chris Christopherson wrote that. But I also got links to a video, very, very well done video, where it's all about perception. And it shows, I wouldn't show it even if I was doing a live video, because I don't know what's going to get me nailed to the wall here for doing things. But I have links to it. It's on Facebook, so you can share it. It's on my Facebook links. You can. But it. Hold on one second here. I felt a problem coming on there. It shows the perception of somebody apparently driving away a black Uber driver out of the neighborhood using a MAGA hat, on. And when the actual real story is showed, it was actually helping the guy get unstuck. Very good video, very nice. Should be shared all over the place. Real short, a few minutes. And I'm going back to my list again. I saw a couple things I missed because when I go down Facebook, sometimes it jumps, and I'll miss a whole thing. It's an article. HHS extends contract. Well, they said discussing contract with university to create humanized mice using late-term aborted babies. This is the problem is, I don't even like the idea of using animals and coming up with stuff for humans. I mean, I'm looking at animals as lesser, but I don't know. I've heard arguments that it doesn't help. If it works with a mice, it doesn't mean it works with us, or if it doesn't work with a mice, it doesn't mean it won't work with us. But by trying to humanize mice, they got better results in their chemical tests. So you're taking the human DNA and mixing it with animals, and I'm telling you, when it comes into Chimera and all that stuff, it makes me go back to the old Sodom and Gomorrah, lusting after strange flesh. Now, I understand it was sexually oriented at that point, but if you look at some of the principles carried in the Bible, what happens when you mix humans and non-humans, it's not a good thing. Floods come from it, from the angels who mixed DNA, if that's how you want to look at it. But the principle is still there. And when you take the DNA and mix it with animals, you got problems. You're crossing that line. Crossing the line. Now, I'm not sitting here alive, dying with a disease that a aborted fetus technology could save. And I'm sitting here dying a painful death to prove a point. I would like to hope I would think they'd do that. I don't want to have to do that, But my point is that you got to draw lines in the calmness of the day so that when it gets in the heat of the night, you have principles that you follow. That's what the whole Constitution aspect is about, rather than the heat of the mob rule type stuff. But you can't go mixing animal DNA and human DNA because you just don't know what is inside the DNA in terms of special creativity. The human being, I don't know if this is news to those who like porpoises and whatnot or dolphins, but the human being is at the top of the creational chain, which of course makes him responsible for those lower, not to be a king or a dictator over it, but there's a creative thing that was given to humans that hasn't been given to other things. There's programming in animals, you can see. Animals can learn things. When you get into the higher animals, they can learn things and whatnot, but there's something about a human being that made it special. And so not only is it important to not just create human beings left and right because we feel like, getting laid, but it's also important to not misuse the human DNA, which makes you wonder about the aliens who take human DNA. You know, if that's actually going on, I think that's really problematic, and that goes back to the principles, I think, contained in the angels mating with, humans, if that's how it went. But I think, human beings themselves taking the DNA, mixing with animals, sorry. There's a problem with that. Now, if you read the futuristic science fiction novels, where they mix pigs and humans and they get, intelligent pigs that are got human in them and all this stuff, and they fight for rights and all this. These are all novels. These aren't real, right? So by saying, well, what if you mix a human with a pig and they need to have rights too? There isn't human pigs, and there shouldn't be. So it's not even an argument. But there are humans who are various races, black, white, actually there's no black and white. It's actually shades of brown, if you ask me, or some kind of a beige to. But anyway, there are human beings that have different physical characteristics whose DNA is made to go together, and that does create differences in the rainbow spectrum. You don't have to go out into the animal kingdom and start to make the chimera and whatnot. So, I mean, it's like, no. The answer is no and all this stuff, and I think that problems will come of it. And this is one of the problems is when you're here paying taxes in this country, you're paying taxes for stuff like this. You don't have a say in it. And you want to be able to go, no, I don't, on religious grounds, I don't want to have my money somehow go to create humanized mice using late-term aborted babies. I don't want that. I don't want to have flavor enhancers that have found their way from aborted fetuses in my food. No, I don't want that. I don't want GMOs. And it's not because the GMOs are some amazing improved genetics to make things more healthy. It's got nothing to do with health. In fact, it's totally unhealthy. Even the salmon that's GMO modified salmon they're trying to do, what they're doing is they're making them bigger and fatter faster, which is going to put a grave stress on the natural system. So now you're growing big fat stressed salmon as opposed to genetically naturally blending other types of salmon together, which would naturally conform and create. And even when you do it naturally, you still have problems, and you don't go down that road anymore. So this is why you have the natural constraints, because you can't look at the improvements they have made on the food over the years. I mean, people trying to study how corn started theorized that corn basically was grass that has been over the years. You'd find the human beings would find different types of grass that had bigger seeds, and they would blend them together, and then they would have bigger seeds, and and over time it's like, oh wow, and then this is how it's supposed to be done. You're using the natural mechanisms. I mean, you could use the natural mechanisms for healing and health in cannabis and get all kind. No, I can't do that. We have to go create our own and patent it, which is going to be problematic. So, I mean, this is the problem. You have to look at nature, and this is the problem when you have a deistic belief. You think that God created nature, created the universe, and there's a programming in the universe to follow, to learn from and follow, and we go along that natural programming in creating foods and whatnot, and that's the way you're supposed to. No, I can't do that. We can't have God in anything. It has to be no God. God can't be in it. Humans have the right to do anything they want. They can supersede it because it wasn't God. It's an accident. It all just went boom, and all of a sudden things fell together, and it's up to us to be able to move it the way we want to. We want to make it so we're the best, fastest, smartest. The richest can get eternal life and machines, and what a bunch of garbage. And it will all lead to destruction of human race. Now, I think that I don't have a proactive view that others do of God. And God isn't sitting up there all pissed off, steaming. I'm telling you, I'm going to come down there, lightnings and all, man. Boom! I just distorted everything. That's not my view of God. My view of God is He's created this system, and we do have free will because God is trying to raise human beings to become like Him, like God. Let's say it's an infinite process. It'll never get there because God's ahead. But the point is, we're supposed to learn why things happen the way they do for the highest, best reason. That's why they do. Oh, I get it. So then when we make our own creative decisions, we're basing it using that knowledge of why things work the way they do for the highest good. So then when we create and do things new, we have these principles behind it. And so this is what God wants us to create stuff new. He wants us to go out and do our own thing. But he's telling us that the reason why things are right and wrong is because when you do things that are evil, it leads to destruction 100% of the time. Ultimate negative destruction as far as you can go down into negativity. That's where it ends up all the time, 100%. When you're on the path, you veer a little bit, oops, up, that's right, back on the path, and you stay on that path, and as you grow on that path, it becomes wonderful, beautiful stuff. As you go from layer and layer, higher and higher, through different, I don't know if you want to call them incarnations, afterlives, whatever, you can expand into another level of consciousness. Oh, more creative stuff, more doing stuff. You can create literally probably up high enough. You can create your own world. Maybe you'll be in charge of something like that. But you have to have the experience and the knowledge of what not to do and why before you can actually be given the keys to drive the car. And what we're doing on Earth here is we've been given the keys to drive a car in a limited area where we can destroy just this limited area. And we are destroying it if you happen to be looking around. So, this is my whole point is that we have to learn rather than name names and go after people and things, and it's all their fault. How many times you heard this? You dealt with someone who's divorced? Well, it was his fault, or it was her fault. Somebody else calling. I'm not really set up. I can, but I'm rather not do the call thing. But it's actually somebody for the house here. So, for that reason, now I just forgot what I was saying. Anyway, maybe it's good that I'm done with my rant. Everyone is probably gone anyway. But this is why I don't. This is why I if I had to market myself into, let's say, some kind of media, I don't have a market. And it's not that I'm the one that's right and no one else is wrong. No one can see my point. I'm just so wonderful. No, it's the tendency of people want to hear what they want to hear. I was there. I know it. Okay, so I'm not saying and so when something comes in there that you don't want to hear, but it's got some truth aspects to it, you got to look at it. You got to do it. You just got to do it. Because truth always sets you free, like it or not. There is no bad truth other than the truth you don't want to hear or deal with. It's always going to lead to your getting higher, better, more. Now, there might be pain and suffering involved. You find out truth in a relationship, or you find out truth in a principle that you've been doing and you're passionately attached to, and now you have to change. And there is always going to be pain and suffering because your body is made to, like, all of a sudden they tell you, yeah, jump off a cliff, it's fine. No, really, we checked, it's okay. Your body goes, nah, no, you ain't jumping off a cliff. Because you have all this knowledge of what happens. You would have to train yourself. You'd have to talk yourself into it. Like I went cliff, what do they call it? Belaying over cliffs, rappelling. And even though my mind knew the rope was fine and I was trained in it and the guy was there, I had a safety rope, we're all there. When you lean over that cliff for the first time, your body goes, no way, no freaking way. And that's the most dangerous time, is that first time, because you panic and you start to pull yourself up, and that's when you could slip and cause problems. And they know what's going to happen, so they're all ready. But you have to train yourself, if there's going to be dramatic changes, that it's okay. And the same comes from long-held personal beliefs, whether it be religious, whether it be medical beliefs, your belief in a person, and then they end up letting it down or doing wrong or whatever. And realize that all people have problems. We're all sinners who've fallen short of the glory of God. No question with that one, And so that, we could be easier on each other as we fall, provided that we acknowledge the fall and work out through it, not just blame it on the other person. Well, I was fine. It was done. And that's what it comes down to me, blame. When it's the Ashkenazi Jews versus the Jesuits versus the whatever. There's blame for everybody. Everyone's got a special groove in sin in this world. So whatever category you want to say, they got their own special addition to the downfall and corruption and fall of the earth. But they also have a little key for its help. And so a lot of times when the person kind of return, I won't say repent, that's an old biblical term, but if you change your course and go, wait a minute, I've learned all this dark stuff, and I know it's bad, you come out into the light with that experiential knowledge of bad darkness, you're pretty valuable in helping people learn in the light. Because you can go like, hey, I've been there, okay? I have the scars on my soul and on my body to prove what that evil is in there, and I'll tell you about it, and I'll show you it. I'm not being cocky. I'm not being arrogant. I'm just telling you. You want to go down there and find it yourself? Hey, it's up to you. But I've been there, and here's the deal. This is what I think how we can help one another. When it says confess your sins to one another, that's what I think it talks about. Hey, we can learn from experience. When God said, "Don't eat of the tree of the fruit of eat of the tree of life, don't eat of the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil," it's very important. They forget that knowledge of good and evil. They say the tree of knowledge. It's the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And so when that tree was bitten, whether it's literal or metaphoric, it means that we are going to experientially know. Gnosko, the Greek word gnosko, we're going to know. Experientially know within our being good and evil. And if you have been in these areas, if you have been harassed, if you have been in drugs and sex and power, all this negative stuff, if you've got out of that alive and it killed yourself or died, you know why it's bad. You know it. Other people can theorize why it's bad. You know why it's bad. And so this is why we all should share our knowledge of the sin we've been through, not because of some, pious confession and how somebody who hasn't been through that could go, oh, well, I don't know how you could do that, but, Jesus loves you, and so it's okay. You can come with our nice, clean group here of people who would never do anything like that, but you can come now and be with us because Jesus forgive you. No. Those people are like thankful to hear this stuff, to have the experiential knowledge. I know that's not good, but boy, I tell you, I theorize it's not good. Doesn't look good on paper. It doesn't make sense on me, but now I know it's not good because I could see the pain and suffering in your eyes, and I can feel it from your soul. I know that's not good. I know the difference between good and evil. And this is what we all should be doing because we're getting ready to go to the next level. We're all going to die. And our goal here is not to redo the Union, to have a second revolution and have the United States of America shine forth to the earth. That'd be nice. Nothing wrong with that, per se. But our goal here is to have our personal knowledge of good and evil the experience we've had turned into helping and teaching and growing, so that when we go to the next level, we die and go to the next side, we're ready to go onward and upward into positive love, creation, growth, and not, so you need to experience more of evil? You need to have a more hands-on of why evil's bad? Well, here, go to this area here where it's nothing but evil, where it's nothing but struggling all the time, people killing one another, stealing from one another, using one another, abusing one another. Want to go there? Maybe you'll learn in that place why it's good. So right now the blessing here is that we have a limited evil and to learn from, so that we can go into a more unlimited setting. I'm still rambling on here, I notice, but write some. I don't know if I haven't really got much here in the chat room. Of course, the chat rooms are, it's easier on YouTube when I do this, but I guess I could try to do both at once, but I just don't want. I like the idea of not having to deal with the camera, because I could just sit here and goof off with all this stuff here. But anyway, all right. So anybody wants to send me email, the new website is up and running. I mean, it's really same as the old website, except the old shows aren't available yet. I have to do the coding on it. I just haven't had time to update the codes with the old shows. They're not hidden or nothing. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll post a link on the new website. I've put all the shows in a public Google Drive box. And I was going to go in and recode, because I have the shows they're all in there. All the shows were in there by descriptions. And I have to go to each show after all the years and change the links to download the show. So, I don't know. Still, a lot of gigabytes have been downloaded on that, so I should update that. It is free, and they do serve a purpose. Again, it's 16 years of doing this. So maybe what I'll do is I'll post a link that has link to the shows. There's nothing about them in the link. You have to go to the page. I'll work on it, but everything from 2017 onward is all on the website and accessed and everything, so we can go from there. Any requests for guests or topics, please email me. Email would be james@feettothefireradio.com. Or, I got the old emails are still good if you know them from the old days, but james@feettothefireradio.com, easier to remember than the other emails. That's why I just say it. It's all forwarded to my main email anyway, which is james@innersize.com, but then I got to explain, I got to spell innersize because it's not the way it sounds. And james@feettothefireradio.com sounds a lot easier to say. Longer to type, easier to say. Mention the guests you'd like, why. Mention topics you'd like. I'm done with cryptos, so you could save the crypto emails. Maybe they'll balance out. Looks like that Bitcoin might balance out at about $4,000, give or take. Once they become stable, now they can become currencies. Right now, it's not the case. I've had my ride up and down, and I should have sold when it was high, and I sold when it was just a little higher than I bought it. So, so much for Hold'em. How's that, Hold'em? HOLDM, or I don't know what they said. Some kind of knucklehead phrase that all it did was have me lose thousands of dollars that I could have made. So thanks for the Hold'em advice. And so I'm not going to get into that stuff. I'm not really, politics, but I'll talk about truth and all that. And I want to mention the things that are going on. And so for people who are tired of hearing about all the things going on in the politics, I'm really not trying to be political, as you could hear, but I do want to talk about a perspective of vision of reality, my perspective of it. I look at truth as a multifaceted diamond. Not everybody can see every side, but we can all see the diamond. And as we share our views of that diamond, it'll jive with one another. It won't be like a deceit. You'll know, oh, wait a minute, it doesn't fit. But if yours needs to be trimmed a little bit because of new perspectives, you should feel that as well. That's why I'm in this lack of contradiction is the road to truth. So I think that's it. Thanks for listening. I'm going to find the ending here. Now, where is it? Yeah, so somebody wrote, hey, I like the new opening intro and all that. I go, actually, that goes back to the beginning of the show. I've added like the Jesse Ventura beginning and, Godzilla and stuff. I added some trimming on it, but the initial music and all that goes back. I did it before I even did my first show. But when you're doing the YouTube videos, I don't want to do too long of an intro. Me just sit here, look at the ceiling until it's done. Another reason why I like the audio is I can throw this stuff in. I used to have breaks and intros and exits and commercials and all this stuff, but that's all gone. Plus, I would get nailed for playing copyrighted material. Boy, that bothers me. Anyway, I'm going to have to edit this because in the ending I had a little Pink Floyd thing in the background to be in the quiet in the background while I wound up and talked. And I keep forgetting to edit that out because, of course, then I'll get nailed from that. Any comments? The show's available on Spreaker. As soon as I'm done, it'll upload it to YouTube. If you're listening via YouTube, and if you keep that bell chimed or whatever and subscription, you'll be let known when it comes up. I do post a message on the channel when I'm going to do a live show on Spreaker, so you should still get that message if it works, and you can have the option of listening live if you want. You're more than welcome to listen on live as well, too. And you can download the shows on Spreaker. I have that set up so you can download them and put them on your phones. Spreaker does allow you to listen on your phone, so you can listen on your phone that way. YouTube, I don't prevent downloading, so you should be able to download it. If you have an add-on that does it, fine. If you'd like to share these with others, by all means. If you want to hit likes and you do all that stuff, it always helps, when people go, hey, I like that. But however you want to do it, see if this is still, yeah, it's still doing the, I'll have to wait till, I'll put it down real low. Maybe they won't get it. So there you go. And that takes care of another Feet to the Fire radio show. Let's see, what do we got? You're 17, I guess? Yeah, I guess 19. Yeah, so we're 16 years into this. Wow, 16 years. Anyway, we'll be back live again next week. Reach for the skies within. God bless you all everyone.
Feet to Fire is a production of IPS Media Works on the OnSync Radio network of stations.